Hi everyone, welcome back. And this is a very special episode of Mentally Strong Mums because this is something that happens all the time. So this can be gender neutral, this can be mums, your partners, sometimes even your kids. And this has to do with anxiety, expectations, and overreactions. Understanding yourself and sometimes why it feels like I can be wound up like a top, wound up like a rubber band, why sometimes I'm really upset and disappointed with people, why sometimes I'm really upset with myself, and then what that looks like kind of moving forward. So this will almost be like a really informal little therapy session, right? So sometimes when it looks like expectations, sometimes we don't even know we have expectations, okay? So we only ever realize when we overreacted or we snapped or we felt alone or disappointed or let down, right? Sometimes when we hold things together and hold things together and hold things together and then you accidentally blow up, but you don't realize that you've been holding it together and holding it together for such a long time. So because sometimes in life it feels like I'm in this constant tunnel moving forward. There's no time for me to pause, to be self-aware to what I'm feeling and what's actually going on for me, right? Until you're 3/4 through of this tunnel and you haven't got there yet, and then you snap. And then when you kind of overreacted in a way, um, people around, why I don't understand why you're freaking out like that. Why did you blow up? That the was it the crime but doesn't fit the punishment doesn't fit the crime. Do you know what I mean? But really, it was never about that moment. It was this deeper internal cycle, generally rooted in anxiety or unconscious expectations, because if they were conscious expectations, you would know about them. All right. And it's also the false sense of control that we hold on to feel safe. So sometimes, if you've got this, whether you know it or not, sometimes you've got anxiety. Anxiety is generally associated with the future. So if you're already feeling stretched or overwhelmed, if it's the mental load, parenting stress, relationship stress, financial stress, combined with potentially lack of sleep, sometimes it feels like I'm holding everything together. This is like a baseline of anxiety that is like a simmering pot, okay? Like a this constant little buzz in my body, right? And then sometimes an unconscious expectations. So listen, anger is a symptom of a broken expectation. Anger is a symptom of a broken expectation. But if I don't know I have these expectations here, therefore they are unconscious expectations, because if I knew they were here, they would be conscious expectations. So if I'm already buzzing on with my anxiety and I'm already about a 5 or a 6 out of 10, right? And then I've got all these unconscious expectations that I'm not even aware of. So they're just somewhere in your mind. It's this little something somewhere. So it's almost like these expectations that you don't say out aloud. My partner's going to take the bins out without being reminded. My toddler will nap on time. That's a delusion, not an expectation. Sorry. Um, the afternoon will go smoothly. I will finally get 10 minutes to myself. I wonder what unconscious expectations you have about the way that your day is going to go. Okay, whether that be yourself, whether that be your children, whether that be your partner, sometimes about work colleagues. So I wonder if your baseline anxiety is buzzing at a 6 out of 10, and then you have these unconscious expectations about what people will do or won't do around you to support you. And then when they're broken, um, that's kind of the thing that tips you over into an 8 out of 10, right? So sometimes these expectations aren't unreasonable, but they're unconscious, therefore they're unspoken. So in that moment, I feel like I have a perceived loss of control. So when the reality doesn't match my expectation, your mind will then perceive danger, right? The control that you thought that you had gone. And the triggers that are now here in front of you, and then just regulating your nervous system, okay? The overreaction or the blow up is because you've been hijacked by your own emotions because of all of this unconscious stuff that's happening, right? So sometimes this overreaction, and everyone overreacts differently. Sometimes we also look at it. Overreaction is a trauma response. I wonder what's triggered you. And remember, your triggers are your responsibility, not anyone else's. So when we do overreact, guilty. I'm always guilty, right? You've got to take accountability and responsibility for your own behavior and your overreactions. And then what we do, which we'll teach you soon, is almost go back in time, step by step, as to what you went through and what your perception was that led you to this overreaction, right? So when you overreact, it's actually your brain trying to regain control in the face of unpredictability. So anger, remember, is that secondary emotion. Anger is a symptom of a broken expectation. It can be disappointment or fear, or sometimes even helplessness. Sometimes it tricks you into feeling you're completely alone and you can't trust anyone. But in reality, if you just realized what your expectations were and use your words, and asked for what you need, can you please take out the bin? Would it please be okay if you could help me? Do you know what I mean? Understanding how to communicate and take accountability. Listen, I'm actually, and if we're going back to that bin scenario, listen, I just want to work as a bit of a team. I feel quite frustrated sometimes. So I felt this way when you did this thing. So please, I need this outcome. But if you don't know what you need, how can you ask for it? So in that specific scenario, when you overreacted about the bin and you cracked it, you dragged the bin out of the thing and you went it outside, and then it's kind of gone everywhere, and then you've thrown it in the wheelie bin and slammed the door, and then come back inside and your hubby's there going, you right? Do you need some help? I could have done that for you. And there's a whoosh coming out your ears. If you take accountability for how you reacted, taking a step back into reeling, I had an unconscious expectation that he would do it. He didn't do it. Therefore, that because my anxiety was already buzzing at a 6, that tipped me over, because when I looked at the bin and it still wasn't emptied, I didn't say anything, but that tipped me over until an 8. And then when I piled the last thing on top of the bin out of principle, to leave it there, and then it teetered off and fell on the ground, that's when I overreacted, and that then took me at a 10, and I lost my biscuits, and then I did it, right? Overreact, have your moment, growth, okay? My bad, I'm really sorry. I think I overreacted, and hubby's like, yeah, a little bit. I've just realized that I thought we had a conversation that you were going to be able to be in control of taking out the bins. Oh yeah, well, I was getting there. I know, but the thing is though, I want to work as a team and I want a partnership. And I feel like if I have to ask you all the time and I nag you, I then become your mum. And I don't want another child. I want my man, and I want you to lead, and I want you to be a partner with me. And like, I just want some help in this house. Oh, babe, I didn't realize oh, of course, I would love to do that for you. Thanks. I would really like, thanks, hubby. Do you know what I mean? And the last episode we were talking about rupture and repair. So when you overreact, whether it be to your hubby or your kids or your work colleagues or your parents or your in-laws, being able to take accountability and understanding why you did what you did, and then having an emotionally mature conversation about it, as well as understanding your needs and then asking for your needs. I felt this way when you did this thing, so I need this outcome. So that's a really good template to use, because otherwise, if you don't resolve your overreaction, you then sometimes slip into that shame and then regret. You're embarrassed. It's not who you want to be. You think that you're better than that. And then people see you, they can then use it against you. And so then it becomes this awful cycle. And still, since you haven't learned why you overreacted and what you needed, and then how to resolve that, so you kept everything down and shoved everything further, every time you see the bin, it's going to trigger over and over and over again. Therefore, I feel alone. I don't feel supported. Do you know, when really, if you just had a mature conversation about it, which is your expectations? What are your expectations? What do they look like? Are they conscious? Does everyone know about it, right? So sometimes we need a sense of, especially as mums, humans need predictability and control. We need the illusion of control to function. Control gives us predictability, and predictability makes us feel safe, right? So when life becomes chaotic, which, hello, we're all there, we unconsciously start to assign meaning to tiny little things, right? So if I can get the lunch boxes done by 8 a.m., I'm on track. If they don't throw a tantrum today, I'm a good parent. Or if I don't scream at my kid today, I'm a good parent, right? If my partner doesn't forget again, then I can relax, okay? So we anchor safety into these invisible little milestones. But when they fall apart, we don't just feel annoyed, we literally feel unsafe, and that's in our nervous system. We feel unsafe, we feel unheard, we feel unsupported, therefore we feel out of control. Hello, overreaction, right? In whatever capacity. So someone's overreaction might be shut down, silent treatment, huff and a puff. Some have a rage haze. I don't know if you've heard of a rage haze, is when you just go Burko and you just go rage so much and so intently that you accidentally black out while you're doing it. You can't remember what you said. That's a rage haze. Do you know what I mean? Which is not nice to have that. And it's also not nice for that to be coming at you either. And then it's not also nice to your kids to witness that. So obviously we can understand where the shame and regret comes from if you go into a little rage haze, right? So realizing what your expectations are, how are they unconscious? Are they conscious, right? Do people know about your own expectations, including yourself, right? So sometimes if you ask your partner to help with bedtime, but they're still on the phone, you raise your voice. Inside, you're not just annoyed. It's almost like you're heartbroken because you're still doing it all alone. So we look like the layers of the onion, what's under all of these kind of stuff. So sometimes if you've got a toddler, your toddler spills juice after you've just cleaned. You yell, right? You weren't angry at the juice. You're exhausted from cleaning all day and not feeling seen. And the reality is, if you've got little kids, your house is never going to be clean again until they move out, right? And unless you're a stay-at-home mum and everything has to be cleaned and you're up all night and it's just this OCD world, right? Sometimes another expectation, your teenager slams the door. You snap. It's not the door, it's the fear that you're losing connection and you don't know how to fix it. That one hits home, right? But in every case, the reaction doesn't match the moment because it's carrying the weight of 10 other unmet needs underneath. All these expectations that you have, all the fears that you have, all the loss of control, right? So remember, if you did overreact in some way, you've almost got to retrace your steps. Pausing that pattern. So the moment when you felt the surge rising, take a breath, right? Ask yourself, what did I expect to happen? I thought they would know what I needed, but I didn't say it, right? Naming the emotion underneath. Is this really anger? Or is it disappointment? Or is it fear? Or is it exhaustion? Is it a cry for help? Right? And if you have a look, there's a thing called an emotion wheel. If you Google it, emotion wheel, you'll have a look. In the middle is the primary emotion, the first emotion, and then it goes out around and you'll understand what the underlying emotions are, right? So we also want to start to understand ourselves better. So zoom out, look at the bigger perspective. Is this a pattern that you've seen before, right? Have you been in this cycle of anxiety where you're trying to get the illusion of control? You have unconscious expectations, and then broken expectations lead to anger, right? When you can have this awareness, it then breaks this repetition. As I said, as humiliating sometimes as it is, my bad, I'm really sorry, I didn't mean to overreact. Are you okay? All right. I do it all the time with my kids, especially in the morning when I'm trying to get into the car and I lose my biscuits. You know, I'm getting better at it, and so are they. And so because I start to do that with them, I realize about my expectations, and when I'm buzzing at a 6, when it goes to about a 7, when it goes to an 8, and what I have to do, because if I don't bring it back when I'm at an 8 out of 10, if I go to 9, I'm going to lose it and I'm going to have an overreaction. What are these expectations? Well, one expectation is that we've been doing this routine for the past 5 years. So why haven't you got the picture yet? Every single day, we do the same thing every single day. Do you know what I mean? When really we look at the bigger picture, I'm meant to be the leader. I'm the captain of the ship. Maybe it's my fault for not leading well. And how can I do things and change things to be able to get the minions to follow me? You know, Guru, I'll be Guru and they can be my minions, right? So instead of assuming or hoping that someone will just get it, they don't get it. I'm feeling, use your words, I'm feeling really overwhelmed. I just need a hand, please. I just need a partner. You know what? I actually just really need a cuddle. Can you please cuddle? Do you know what I mean? I was hoping for some rest today. I feel like I'm burnout. Can we tag team better? So sometimes if you do say things to your partner like, I was just hoping for some rest today, sometimes that might trigger your partner a tit for tat mentality. Yeah, well, I'm tired too. Okay, I haven't finished my sentence. I was going to say, can we tag team? So can you look after him here while I have a nap and then we swap and then you can have a nap? It's not a competition, bro, you know? Um, Realizing as well, another sentence you can use is, you know what, it's really hard when I have expectations and I don't even realize that I've made them. I'm really sorry. Do you know? Because once you can start doing this and using this language, your kids will follow you and use this language as well. So sometimes the times where I've overreacted in the mornings, and I've done that for a blah, 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 eventually my kids, when they overreact, which they do because we all do, you know, which is normal, my kids can now articulate, oh, Mama, I think I overreacted. You don't, though, in that moment shame them and go, yeah, you did. You're a psycho. No, no, no. What we do is oh, did you? Yeah, I did. Oh, really? Do you know why? Are you okay? So then what you're doing for yourself by understanding why you overreacted, you do that then for them in that moment. You don't shame them or make them feel bad for overreacting. You help them understand why they overreacted and what they need from you and what their expectations was. All right. So that self-compassion is definitely the antidote with yourself. And then even if you start doing this and then hubby hops on the train and he does it as well. Sorry, overreacted, lost it. At least we can start to take accountability and apologize, right? We're all just human. We're all just trying to make it through the day sometime. And we're just trying to find safety in this unpredictable world. But if we can kind of understand with this whole growth mentality about what we need, we're on this constant path of evolution to be mentally strong, right? So if you've ever felt crazy for overreacting, If you've ever cried in guilt after snapping, if you've ever walked on eggshells around your own emotions, do you know what I mean? You're not weak, you're emotionally overloaded. So you're carrying the invisible burden of being everything to everyone. So while holding a lifetime of unspoken expectations, hopes, and fears, as well as all of these silent sacrifices that sometimes you don't even acknowledge or talk about or want to, we just shove everything down, right? Take a moment to exhale. You're not failing. You're becoming aware, and with awareness comes power. You are worthy of grace, understanding, and space, not just from others, but most importantly, from yourself. You've got this, okay? Everything's going to be all right. Look after yourself and just notice what your baseline is. So the very first thing we spoke about was baseline. So I wonder what your baseline is in terms of that anxiety. Out of 10, is it a 4? Or do you generally buzz at a 6 out of 10? On a day-to-day basis, if you were to do an experiment with yourself, maybe just out of curiosity this week, notice what your baseline anxiety is. Is it a 3 out of 10? Is it a 5 out of 10? Is it a 7 out of 10? And then if it's a 7 out of 10, it's not going to take a lot for you to reach 10. If you're a 3 out of 10, it's going to take a lot longer. All right, so this is just about being more self-aware and being the best version of you in this world. All right, mums, look after yourself. Bye.